Are you looking for an IM and you play games like Battlefield, PUBG, Call of Duty, CS2, Valorant, Apex Legends? Do you play those games? Because I don't. Good day guys, this is Practiphile, and yeah, honestly, I don't play these games anymore, or I have not tried playing them. I used to play Counter-Strike, not the online stuff, the LAN stuff, like PC cafes and computer cafes. That was, oh my god, like 30 years ago, 20 years ago. Anyhow, we have here the Moondrop Rays. Yeah, it is marketed as a gaming IM. Moondrop Gravity Rays, thank you so much, Shenzhen Audio, for sending this for a review. Yeah, I think there are already reviews about this, and people are saying this is just a Moondrop May with a different cable. And that cable is actually, you can have access to to a web app wherein you can change the settings, the EQ and stuff like that. But yeah, let's talk about it later. Let's check the box first here. Pretty standard. You get the case, just a standard case, a standard ear tip. The quality of the cable is on the okay-ish side, not too great. It does feel a little bit cheap, and it comes with a thicker cable here that you're going to use. You're gonna attach the DSP cable here, and it has a USB connector, and you are going to connect that to your PC, and you are going to have access to the web app because it's going to scan the IM. And there you get a lot of configuration, just a lot. There are presets like FPS, FPS2, music game, AAA game. There is configuration in there. A lot of configuration from different users, but a lot of them are also in Chinese, so I don't understand if they're useful or not. You also get the advanced setting wherein you can do PEQ yourself, target a specific range, and apply some values in there, which is, I mean, at this point, if you have your own target, then you probably know how to do PEQ, right? So yeah, that's about the app in there. I also tried connecting it to the phone and checking the Moondrop Link app. You're also able to change the settings there. You can also customize the EQ in there, so no problem with that. But yeah, unfortunately, as I've mentioned, I don't really play FPS games recently. I used to play a lot when I was younger, but I just play Mobile Legends, and I don't think audio really matters in Mobile Legends. Skills matter in that game, but probably not audio. But so, I'm just going to probably review the sound quality of the Moondrop Rays because I didn't really have had the chance to review the Moondrop May, and people are saying this is just Moondrop May. But yeah, let's move on to the objectives first, and the graph of the ray is like that one over there. So I have two actually. There is the DSP and the analog cable. So as you can see with the DSP cable, the tuning is a little bit on the neutral side. There is a gain in there, significant gain, presence region also, and the treble is a little bit on the tamer side. You don't also get a lot of sub bass. Pretty, I would say, mid forward or not mid heavy. It's just almost, it's close to neutral kind of tuning with the stock DSP. And when you look at the analog version, it kind of like becomes like a V-shaped, yeah, like a U-shaped kind of tuning. There is an elevated bass in there, significant gain, and then a declining treble. It does sound a little bit of V, it is more engaging than the DSP cable. So that's how it sounds objectively. Tonally though, I think that because this is a 1DD1 planar IEM, I do hear a little bit of zinginess there in the treble. It's not a lot when using the DSP cable, but with the analog cable, you do hear that zinginess in there. A little bit unrefined. Can be peaky for some people who are sensitive to treble, although it can be mitigated by the amount of bass in there, so it really depends on which ear tip you're using. So let's just score this one here. I'm going to score this based on the $61 to $120 price point. And these are the IMs in that category. So for tonality, I think the tonality in this one is pretty good in both analog and DSP cable. The DSP cable does sound a little bit more open sounding, tamer in the treble, which is beneficial for the driver that it has because it has planar, and it can be a little bit fatiguing for a longer listening session. So I do think that in both analog and DSP, I kind of like the tonality, so I'm giving it 2.5. If I feel like I want to listen to like a mid-centric set for today, then I can use the DSP. If I want more engaging, then the analog. So yeah, for both tunings, I think I'll give it 2.5. Moving on to the mids. The mids sound great in both cables actually. I didn't hear the bass mudding up the mids or something. It's well controlled, instruments and vocals sound natural. Maybe it's a little bit recessed for the analog cable. The DSP cable does make it sound more open. So for the mids on this, I think I'm just giving it 2.5. It's not something that I love, but definitely it is Moondrop style mids. So, you know, when you think of Moondrop, they really do good on the mids part. So moving on to the bass. Yeah, again, as I've mentioned, it is engaging in the analog cable. It is tight. It is actually good sound. And with the DSP tuning, I do wish that it had more sub bass in there. I mean, I cannot really complain because I can always change the EQ. I can always customize it. But basing on the analog cable, I do think that the bass has good texture and impact. And I'm gonna compare that to different IMs later. But yeah, the bass on this here, I think it's a 2.5. Moving on to the treble, yeah, this is where I find the treble to be a little bit on the grainy side on the analog cable, probably because of these two peaks in here. So yeah, it was a little bit hard for me to graph this because the coupler peak is around 9K. It doesn't really match at the 8K, and there is a big peak past 10K. But then, yeah, with using the DSP cable, you do feel that those peaks in there are a little bit tamer. Also, depending on the ear tip that you're using, it may boost those peakiness in there. So for the treble, I think I'll just give it maybe a 2 for the treble, you know, because it's a double-edged sword. It can be great, it can be good. But yeah, I think those planars in there need a little bit of refinement. And last one for the technicalities. Yeah, since it has a planar, I do feel that the stage is more open sounding. The separation is better. Actually, the detail retrieval it's great, actually. I actually scored it 2.5 here. Now that I think of it, the technicalities is actually great for the price. I don't know if it's because of the planar or it's because of the peaks in here. Like, I was listening to a lot of Yorushika songs recently, and I just thought that like the voicing of Nabuna and Sui was just really separated. I forgot which song was it. Forgot, maybe it was plagiarism or something else. But yeah, the separation of instruments is really good for the price. So for the technicalities, I'm giving it a 3, and that is a total of, I think that's a total of 12.5. That is an A rank for me. Yeah, I think it's A rank. It's generally better than other sets. Very good for the price, but the tonality might not match your preference. But then again, this is not a question of tonality here because the DSP cable, you can put your target in there, and this cable here holds the power to everything. Because Moondrop May is, I think it's cheaper. Let me see. I think Moondrop May is around 74 bucks, and I think you're paying the $25 for this one here. The app and this cable, the customization, and I think it's worth it because if you really know how to EQ and you're playing a lot of games and you like experimenting with profiles, this is gonna be great. So moving on to the comparisons, I have a few here. I'm gonna start with the, of course, IMs priced in this category here. I'm gonna compare it with the Kima 2, which is a perfect scored IM. The graph looks like that one in there. I'm gonna overlay or use the DSP cable because there. All right, look at that in there. So there is a similarity in there with the stock DSP and Duno Kima 2. Although I would say that the Duno Kima 2 sounds more coherent, more natural sounding, from the bass, mids to the treble. The Moondrop Ray, it's not far. Look at that, because look at that tuning in there. It does sound a little bit more technical, I would say. Well, more separation in that regard, because again, it's unfair to compare it. It's like one DD and one planar. But yeah, if you don't like using DSP, probably go for the Kima 2. If you want customization, then the Moondrop Ray might be good for you. Another one here is the Galileo. Right there. A similarity in the gain there. Although the Galileo, you can feel that there is more bass, more impactful bass, tighter. The Moondrop Ray, again, the DSP tuning in there, it lacks the sub bass. It's not that it lacks sub bass, it's just that the DSP EQ is tuned in that regard. So again, you can always change the setting in here. I'm just comparing it stock, like the default tuning, if for people who don't know how to customize their EQ profile. The Galileo is gonna be probably more mid-forward. Some people find the Galileo to be dark in the treble. I don't find it dark in the treble, but I do see that the planar from the Ray will benefit with, you know, you can feel that it's gonna be airier and sparklier with the Moondrop Ray. Next one would probably be the EW300. Man, the EW300, I think Simgot did a great job in tuning the EW300, because any IM that I review in this price range, I always compare it to the EW300, which means that it's a good IM in its price category. I'm gonna compare the EW300 to the Moondrop analog cable right there. Look at that. You see that in there? Like, from the bass to the mids, it's almost identical. And it's also a little bit similar in driver configuration, although it has, the EW300 has a piezoelectric driver. Yeah, they are similar looking in the analog. I do feel that the Moondrop Ray has more air in the treble, or kind of like more forward. So if you like more forward treble, you probably would pick the Moondrop Ray. If you want a little bit smoother treble response and you want more bassy, because I do think that the EW300 is bassier, than pick the EW300. And the last one would probably be, you're gonna be surprised with this because it's not in the price category. It's actually more expensive. It's the Binary Dyna Quattro. Look at that in there. So again, it's really similar in the bass and the glide in there to the gain. Probably the only difference is that in the treble. I'm not saying that the Dyna Quattro is dark in the treble. I think it's pretty well controlled and it matches the signature that the Dyna Quattro is going for, which is a very good sounding bass. But yeah, you see that the Moondrop Ray, again, it has a similar tonality, but I would probably give the bass to the Dyna Quattro. That bass in there, that passive radiator just does something about the Dyna Quattro. You do feel an elevation in the treble for the Moondrop Ray. But yeah, all in all, I think the Ray is a very good IM. I can't really say for gaming because again, I don't play FPS games anymore. But for music, I do think it is a decent IM in its price range. Do I put it in my recommendation list though? Probably I can. If you want to customize your own tuning and you want to create your own profile for gamings, I think this is a very good pick. And I think it's a good move for Moondrop to release the Ray. Or is it really a good move? I mean, they can just probably sell this cable and just use the May instead. But I know, it is their release. I do think it's a good release. Like even for music, I did find myself enjoying the Moondrop Ray. So thank you so much for watching. If you play games, I don't. See you next time.